And welcome to Meet the Polymaker. I am your host, as always, Nikor. Welcome back, everybody, for a new week of the show. Yet again, a new, I said, oh, already, look at that. New maker. We're going to talk to him here in just a bit. We're going to talk some news, show some prints, show off some commercials and everything else. But a lot of cool things going on this week. A lot of things coming up. Anybody going to Murph, that's coming up itself. I hope to see a lot of you guys there. Also, if you haven't read already, I am awesome. Right down there. Type that in. At the end of the show, we're going to give away a spool of Polymaker filament. That's shipping. That's everything. That is a no-cost spool of filament to you, the winner. So type in I am awesome, just as you see on the ticker there. Make sure to space it. No underscores, no other weird characters. Just get that typed in. I'll give you a last chance close to the end of the show to get that in there if you haven't already. But with that said, let's get right into the news. So first off, we're going to be looking at some 3D printed accessories, we'll say, for cyborg insects. This one specifically is for the Madagascar hissing cockroach. Some might be thinking, what are you going to use an insect for? Why is it a cyborg insect? Well, of course, you're adding some electronics to it, makes it cyborg. The insects themselves are used to get into tough terrain, tight spaces, for help in search and rescue. What you're seeing in this picture here is actually kind of a cool device where it is wings that typically the cockroaches don't have, but the hissing cockroaches typically have a problem where they can fall over, where they can go upside down, where they can't right themselves, kind of like a turtle on its back. They get stuck that way, then they're no more help than than prior. So what these little wings do is they can actually stay closed against the body. It does hide the electronics for the wings itself, but also keeps it compact so it can still maneuver through tight spaces, but then they can expand when it's flipped over to help right itself. I thought that was a very cool use of very tiny electronics. These are 3D printed wings. Like I said, just a cool use. I've never really got into much on the insects search and rescue. I've heard of the different things before, but I thought just a really cool thing out of the university in Tokyo. Some of the drawback is, like I said, if they flip over, they can't right themselves. But with this, they can carry on any mission that they're going on. Whether that mission, I don't know the details, but again, I just thought it was cool. I wanted to share that with you. But let's go ahead and move to the next article here. Slice Engineering. We all know who that is. A lot of us have their nozzles, their hardware. They're teaming up with a non-government organization in Egypt to give amputees free prosthetics. The group is going to be called Hand in Hand. It's out of Cairo, Egypt. Excuse me. And like I said, they have been working with providing amputees with prosthetics that are low income, that just can't afford it, with free ones. You'll see here that you got a child here with a prosthetic. It's not just children. It's also adults. Like I said, anybody that can't afford it, they're looking to try to get as much help out there to the world as possible. Now, the Florida-based company Slice Engineering, like I said, is working with them, of course, financially, and then plus they have the hardware that helps the printers print these said devices. People can actually help financially through the website. They can actually help donate to the cause. Like I said, it is out of Egypt right now. They're looking to expand eventually. Some of the numbers I looked up, which was crazy, 20% of the country's amputees are children, ages 5 through 18. So just imagine that, of just, number one, a child having to go through something like that and not having the funds to get, say, any type of limb, whether it be a leg, an arm, and not be able to deal with that. This company coming in clutch, 3D printing, help save the day, give them something to be able to use. Like I said, a lot of them I see in the pictures, they look more realistic. I've seen a lot of different companies go colorful. So of course, some kids want some color schemes, some Iron Man, Captain America, what have you. But just a really cool outreach to where they're providing these children with these prosthetics. 50% of the amputees in the country are workers between 18 and 40. So if they're looking for that help on getting a prosthetic, they're actually able to go to Hand in Hand's Facebook page or Instagram, sign up, take some pictures so they get an idea if it's something they can provide, and get that through that cause. So I just thought it was just a really awesome way. Again, there's always a medical thing. I love the medical stuff, but it's giving back, helping with the lasting impacts on humanity. So just a cool outreach to them, a cool collaboration, and I'm sure we're going to see this a lot more with a lot different companies throughout the world. Next up, we got home decor. I picked this because I like the picture. The chair itself, I would 100% put in my house. I couldn't find the pricing, which probably is a good thing, but this is going to be I don't know how the pronunciation is, but Spidaq. It's a 3D printed chair designed by Siki Young, and he actually designed it for minimalizing material usage. That's between supports, between the amount, of course, there's not a solid mass there, but it's also made for strength. So all those things are actually created. The design itself is created by Saki, but he used what's called Amoeba software and also BESO algorithms. So he used algorithms to detect what kind of shapes are going to make the strongest, strongest structure for the chair, of course, to be able to be sat on and be used as such a chair, not just an art piece. Again, couldn't find the prices, but I could imagine it's probably going to be up there. But we're going to see a lot more of this. Of course, we've seen a lot of people print furniture already. I think Gloop Boys has a chair at their booth. A couple different places at the different rep wrap events have showcased different types of furniture. I've done one of the little collapsible chairs that you can take to sporting events, which is really neat. So we're going to see a lot more of this. Eventually, it's going to become a lot more mainstream and not just something for the artsy people. So we'll see where that takes us. Next up, we have a suppressor for a leaf blower. Who would ever think of a suppressor for a leaf blower? Well, that's an easy answer. It's students from the Johns Hopkins University. They've actually been working for 2 years to figure out how to suppress the noise of a leaf blower. Of course, everybody knows, even with of course, you got the gas powered ones are loud. Your electric ones, they still have a lot of noise to them. So they end up investigating it, identifying where that noise was coming from. And believe it or not, it's less mechanical and more just the high speed air flowing through the nozzle. So they engineered something to help diffuse that noise and the frequencies created by that noise to help not fully alleviate the noise, but quiet it down. So that they're actually already working with Stanley Black & Decker, which I did not know those two companies combined, but they did. And they actually have plans to commercialize the device within 2 years. So whether it's an add-on or whether they just incorporate it into their models, I could not find the details on, but I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, who would have thought of something so simple, but they were able to 3D print it and design it to have different air channels to reroute the air to quiet it, but still have the maximum efficiency of the leaf blower. So again, awesome job to those students at Johns Hopkins University. Last up, we are going to talk a welded, yes, that is a metal welded open source Core XY. We see a ton of custom printers out there. A lot of them are going for that speed. They're looking to go against the Bamboo's speed and the Benchy times, and there's faster things out there. But the gentleman that's creating this is Angelo Casimiro, a YouTuber also known as Tech Builds. And he actually did this build on his channel, and he's labeling it as a DIY Bamboo Lab killer. He's looking to make it faster. Of course, through that, the speed, you're gonna have a lot of vibrations. You need a structure. He actually personally welded this frame himself. Through his YouTube channel, it shows that the parts he's sourcing, he's trying to source locally. Now he is out of the Philippines, so he's sourcing through hardware stores, through markets for the linear rods, all the motors, anything he can find. He's shooting for a budget, and before we we say this, it is a Philippine budget, so the prices are out of the Philippines. It is $300 budget. I think for US, just the frame alone, they were saying around $140 just because of the cost of steel, but still a cool goal that he's shooting for. A cheap DIY, very structured, very solid printer. Not super crazy on speeds. He's looking for 350 millimeters per second with 15,000 millimeters per second squared acceleration. So the speeds around what Bamboo actually does, and those are actual print speeds, not kind of forecasted. The odd thing too with this is he's not using Clipper. He's using a custom Marlin firmware. I'm interested in seeing more into this build. I didn't get to watch all the series. I don't know if he's finished with it yet, but I'm waiting to see where he takes it with custom Marlin firmware. That's kind of an odd thing. I think Sobel maybe did the same thing prior. Someone did another custom Marlin for a high-speed printer, and it worked for the most part. So interesting to see where that goes. But that is it for the news. Let's go ahead and go into the print highlights. Straight out of our show off channel and our Discord at discord.polymaker.com is the first print here in R2D2. Sorry, Star Wars fans or Star Trek fans. Anyway, this was designed by Michael Baddeley. This was printed by user M. Larson. He actually used Polymaker PLA and PLA Pro. Drive gears were in PET G and the wheels were in TPU. So kind of touch base on a lot of the materials. And it's always cool to see these. I've seen some moving ones. I don't know if this is an RC one where it can move on its own or if it's just a stationary display. Either way, a lot goes into these builds, especially when you're doing them large. So props to him on that design, or on that print. Next up, we're going to look at Frykart 3D. He is the designer and the printer of the Flexi Daisy Flower. This one he actually used poly light white, Polyterra Candy, Ice, Banana, and this model is available on Things, again by Frykart 3D. So definitely shows support. We appreciate when you share your own models, and especially when you use Polymaker filament. That's always great. And also real quick too, the last model is available on Patreon, on Michael Badley's Patreon. So I forgot to mention that. Next up, we're going to look at user Turbo printed this low poly skull designed by Peter Farrell. And he did print it in Anycubic metal blue silk. We won't hold that against him. There's still some other beautiful filaments out there, not just Polymaker. So appreciate the share. It is not required that you do Polymaker, just appreciate it. But thank you for the share. The skulls are always, there's so many designs. I love the low poly stuff just because those flat edges and those lines, everything looks so smooth. And this looks, especially in this picture, it does not look 3D printed. I'm sure if you look up close, you'll be able to see that, but definitely a cool print shared by Turbo. Thank you again. Next up, we have none other than Tech Jeeper. Printing is Classic Spaceman that was designed by Big Bricks, and this is available on Things. And he did this actually in a multiple filaments, dual silk, as you can kind of see in the arms. You got that blue and pink dual silk, and you see it kind of in the feet. I thought it was a cool design, or cool color choice for this design. It turned out really neat. Also used Polyterra Savannah Yellow, of course, for the Lego face. And then I would imagine a Polylight or Polyterra Black for the face, or he just painted it in. I could not find the details on that, but a cool print nonetheless. I would like to know how big this is. I know some people have done them really large, so it'd be interesting to see. And last but not least, this guy we may or may not have heard of, Disturbed or Distributed Medic or something, 167. James, thanks for the share here. Who doesn't love SpongeBob? And who doesn't love it when SpongeBob is useful to hold, what else? A sponge. This is the SpongeBob sponge holder by Fat Guy. This model is available on Thingiverse. So that's, of course, I think it was printed in Polylight brown, white, and black, Polyterra plus yellow. So of course, all the Polyterra or all the Polymaker filaments. Who would have thought that from Disturbed Medic? But thank you all again for all these shares. They're always great to see. Continue. I think I've seen an uptick. There's been a lot shared, so I wasn't able to get everything in there. There's a lot that is gonna kind of backlog me. So keep sharing those, and I will share them on the show every single week. Please stay tuned to meet our maker right after this commercial, or these commercials.
Imagine owning some of the best songs about 3D printing this Discord has to offer. Polymaker presents 3D Printing Hits by Silverback and Little D, the best renditions of some of the greatest hits of all time. Hits like Hallelujah, Polly Smooth Criminal, All That She Wants Is Another Printer, Print Away,
There you go, print away.
Still the TD1, All About That Bag, No Stabbies, and Polyman.
It's a file tonight. We're all in the mood to see it extrude, 'cause you've got your printer tuned right.
Reserve your CD today with a special TV offer by going to polymaker.com and paying $39.99. Have your credit card ready. Seriously though, this music was a joke. Go buy some Polymaker.
Are you into cosplay and prop making? Are you tired of having to break out those power tools to sand those lines away? And don't forget about all that hand sanding. Cramps. Ouch. Introducing Polymaker's Cos PLA. Available in two different versions, version A and version B. Both versions are still easier to stand than standard PLA. Find out more at us.polymaker.com.
Have you had bad customer service with your filament provider? Have you ever gotten a bad spool and never got a response when you emailed the company? Well, that won't ever happen when you reach out to Polymaker. Some people say that no company cares about you. Wrong, wrong, wrong. If you never got a response after emailing a company that you've worked with in the past, you may be entitled to better customer service. We at Polymaker pride ourselves on good customer service, and we won't ever keep you waiting for a response. Email us now at support@polymaker.com, and we'll get back to you within 1 business day. We'll fight for you.
And welcome back to the show. So we are here ready to meet the next maker. This guy has helped tremendously on the RepRap events this year so far. So for Rocky Mountain, and been working with me on the Midwest RepRap Festival. You'll know him for blasters, and you'll probably recognize him by his hands if you watch his stream. So with that all said, let's meet Vile Mods. Welcome in, Vile Mods. How's it going?
How's it going?
It's going well. I thank you for coming to the show.
Absolutely.
And sharing your wealth of knowledge on Nerf blasters and kind of the history of how it all happened. So real quick, for those that don't know you, who are you and what do you do?
So Vile Mods, like you said, I tinker with Nerf blasters specifically. A lot of different types of things through old school type of modding where, you know, like we cut up old shells and modify internals, all the way to CAD designed blasters like the ones you see in front of me, which are 3D printed and use either flywheel systems or spring powered plunger tube systems and so on. And I've been in this hobby for a little while now, like 4 or 5 years within this. And yeah, I guess that's the easiest way. I'm a tinkerer of blasters.
There you go.
Anything that flings foam. How about that?
That's fair. Yep. Now with that all said, did your start with blasters or did it start with 3D printing?
So I actually have been in 3D printing for quite some time. I started following 3D printing back in like the old when 3D printers were made out of, you know, wood
random
frames.
pieces. Okay, yeah. So you've been around for a little bit on the 3D printing.
I watched a lot of this for a long time, and it was over, 10, coming up on like 12 years ago now at this point, because I was in a completely different hobby back then. I used to modify Game Boys, of all things, and at the time I was really fascinated. I was like, oh, this could be great for 3D printing parts for the mods that I was doing, because back then people would do a lot of casting for things like buttons and switches and parts for the shells, but there really wasn't a whole lot for the plastics. And to get that stuff injection molded was really expensive. So I was so fascinated. I was like, oh, I've got to pay attention to this. And I actually went back to school when I was in my 30s. So I like 30. I went actually.
Good for you.
I went. Yeah, I've been to college a couple of times in my life, but going back, I in my early 20s, like in 1920, I was doing things like 3D modeling and animation. That didn't really pan out. And I went back for metal fabrication, of all things.
Okay.
And I was doing welding, actually. And I got into seeing that they had a plasma cutter. It got me into the first type of CAD program. And I was like, I really like this. I went back to actual college because I was at a trade school there, and I went to a community college and actually got my degrees in CAD design and circuit board design and a bunch of other types of things. And I was following 3D printing, and actually they had a Stratasys 3D printer at that school, and I was able to actually use that, which, that's
Nice. Yeah.
nobody really had that that kind of printing technology, because I think it was printing an ASA type variant, but it had that that dissolvable support that it would do, and
the
it built,
PVA or
it
something.
printed.
Yep.
It was like a $30-something thousand printer, but
The reason not many people had them. Yeah.
right, exactly. And so I was doing that, and I acquired my first printer actually during that time, and it was a refurbished Robo R1 Plus, and
Okay.
that was the printer that I got my start on, and that was 7 years ago, I want to say. Yeah, welding,
That's-
plasma, CAD. Who is the? I do a lot. I have been in a lot of different industries over the years. Actually, funny enough, the Stratasys, I 3D printed a part for my last car, because one of the switches was causing a problem, and it was a security switch that made the car alarm go off. It was for the hood, and I printed a little cap that extended the throw, and that part is still on that car, and I've sold the car off, and it's still on there because, again, it was like an ASA type of variant.
It was made to last.
Yeah, it's gonna last just fine. So, but yeah, I got into it for a lot of different things, and I was making my own parts and trying out little projects. I got into the nerfing hobby actually because of my wife, as a fun thing, because I was like, wait a minute, I could modify these and make these really good, because she was having an office battle. And the 3D,
So you upped your game a little bit.
Yeah, up the game. And 3D printers were slowly getting better at the time. They were progressively getting better and better. And, even 3D printing within this hobby wasn't really as big maybe 5 years ago. But it was slowly starting to come up, and you would see things like 3D printed battery covers that extend the battery, or flywheel cages for the systems that use motors and stuff. That was starting to sort of have this resurgence. It was like evolution. It was starting to explode more. And I was getting into it, and I was doing little bits of CAD and trying to make little printed parts here and there. I actually got a 3D scanner as well, just to try to see if I could make things easier, because the shells are weird. Sometimes the posts are different sizes and things. And then COVID hit. And when the COVID lockdown really happened, things like these blasters really took off, and the whole 3D printing community exploded because everybody had time to start working on these. And it is a completely different landscape in the past three years or so. It is just it's a monster of things available for you now compared to what it used to be.
And I think that's the one positive we can take away from COVID. The whole COVID thing was a lot of people's creativity came out. Like you said, that a lot of them were sitting at home and just as you said, is start creating blasters. And it's one thing to make mods and additions, and then for people to just up and make an entire blaster out of nothing. Like it's
and people who
crazy.
had never done it, people who had never tried CAD, people who some people didn't even have a printer when they started doing their CAD building of these things, and then they finally got one, and then they started doing some pretty interesting stuff. I actually love to showcase creators like that. People now are in the Polymaker Discord. People like Bruce, Lidl Dynamics, which was
we used the Maraca.
Yeah, the maracas. You have people like Domochevsky, who also just he wants to create really interesting things and has no background in this stuff. But when you look at the videos and the weird things that he's created, you're just like, you are a mad scientist. The stuff that you're making, and then you go into different sides of the hobby where people might have backgrounds in machining or engineering, and those individuals really they fine tune into very like pro level type of blasters is what we call them, because it's actually advanced to a point that there are pro tournaments. So it is slowly.
And these blasters are authorized for, like, your custom blasters are authorized for use in those tournaments, or no?
Yes. So they were, the tournaments are really kind of a new thing, only in the past couple of years. One of them was sanctioned by one of the toy companies known as Dart Zone. But they started originally, they wanted you to only use their product. And when they realized how problematic that was, the recent tournament, actually, during Rocky Mountain, I was actually at an event that was hosting one of those tournaments. And it is honestly bring what you built type of a deal. And people can get store-bought or build their own, whether it's full engineered. And I mean, one of the people who makes a lot of parts for this hobby is a defense contractor who quite literally works for like a company like Raytheon or something like that. And he built the most expensive, over-engineered blaster you could ever see it. I mean, it's well within the thousands of dollars worth of parts.
Just because he could.
Because he could. He had both the money and the engineering background to do it. And if you see it in person, you're just like, this is insane. I can't believe that so much of this is 3D printed. But he absolutely did. It has like machined parts in it, but the body, the shell,
everything that could be 3D printed was.
Everything that could be is. And yeah, it is really, again, very impressive just to see how the hobby has sort of exploded. The 3D printing side of it especially has just, it feels, so I run a news channel as well for this hobby, and it seems that every 2 weeks when we put out an episode, there was always something new that is being put up on printables or somebody's Etsy shop for files being available. It is just, it's a constant. There is always something coming out, and it's things that sometimes you would never expect in some cases. Like it is the most random of stuff sometimes. And you're like, I didn't know I needed that in my hobby or in my loadout or whatever. So yeah.
Now, have you noticed with the design of course, multiple designers and then modelers out there now, the one we're using is it pronounced protein? I never really asked this.
Yeah, it is protein. He actually, there's a joke in how it's written. So it's written out as like how protein was being spelled, and it's got a strike through it, and then it's written out, differently with the different spelling, but it's still pronounced the same.
Now, with that one being a modular unit, do you see a lot of them going modular like that, where you can swap parts out and easy and kind of universal, or does everybody kind of have their set and their own setup?
Well, it kind of depends. We call those community blasters. So originally there was an older one called the Caliburn. Some people know that. Actually, I've seen some people show off their Caliburns in the Polymaker, blaster channel. That one started from an individual known as Captain Slug, who has a background in machining, and it was an open source. It was originally, you could get it on Thingiverse, the whole blaster, and a lot of times he made his money by just making hardware kits, and that turned into somebody else creating a smaller variant of it called the Talon Claw. And then there's been other multiple variants. Like everybody builds on these a lot of times. The one in front of me is known as the Lynx from Orion Blasters. And these also have the same thing. People make full body kits and different parts, and they're customizable and tunable, even to the point that both of these creators actually have licensed commercially their products. I actually just did a segment on a fully machined version of this blaster, actually. Jeez. So what's really nice about this is that you see people who create blasters to be 3D printed. They're open source. You are free to remix and do as you will. And then because the design is so just nice or refined, companies will sometimes figure out, well, we want this to be an all metal. And then they start actually getting licensed contracts through other shops and things like that around the world. Like some of them are coming out of Singapore, some are out of China, some are here in the States. It really depends. But yeah, it's a really cool way to kind of, if you have a really fun design, people have to really worry, because obviously you have to worry about your designs being stolen. Obviously, everybody in the 3D printing community is very aware of that. That happens a lot here, but at least the one thing that's nice about this hobby is that most people who are in it are very aware, and because we are very open and vocal about it, it's very bad for a lot of those people to try to steal the design, because it gets shunned to oblivion, to the point that you
kind
cannot,
of like self-moderated, basically, kind of a self-moderating community.
It's a very self-moderating self-governing, I should say. Like we self-govern it pretty well. And because like if you try to bring one of those to an event, instantly can't use it. So you've just wasted your money. Like we are very, very big about stuff like that, and trying to protect the creators and protect these designs and things, because this is what has allowed this hobby. Well, yeah, work went into it. The remix culture went into it, and there's a lot of really fun stuff. Actually, the protein within only a few weeks of being released, had a remix, and it was called the Ryobian.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was shortened up, and it was meant to look like a Ryobi tool, and it uses Ryobi battery packs, and which is really fun. I thought that was awesome. And actually, obviously, we started trying to make a different variant for you guys.
Yeah.
That's sort of an amalgamation between these two blasters. So,
well, and of course, we had the conversation about the purpose of using the Ryobi battery compared to the RC batteries.
right.
For those that don't know, you want to explain like what was the reasoning between that choice over RC batteries?
So with a lot of this in this hobby, we for our flywheeler blasters, we typically use LiPo batteries of some type, usually with an XT60 or an XT30. With that though comes a lot of safety concerns. You have to be knowledgeable about it. Obviously, keeping your voltages correct, keeping the heat, making sure they don't get punctured. There's a lot that goes behind that. You have to have a smart charger, or it's best to have a smart charger if you can. And everybody who's operating them really should know how to handle them. The nice thing about, say, a Ryobi battery pack is these are designed for a construction site. They're lithium ion instead. They're a lot safer both on the heat. They're safer on the fact that they have a full, protective casing to them. They have their own display for how much battery life is in them. And when you're ready to charge, you just take it off and put it on the charger. There's no thought when it's done charging. It's done. It's ready to go. And you just take it and plug it back in. And the nice thing about that is it doesn't matter who it is. It can be an adult, it can be a child, it can be anyone. Anybody should be able to handle that, and they don't need to know anything else other than putting it into the blaster or putting it on the charger. If it gets dropped, it's a very, very safe, much safer casing for it to handle that kind of abuse.
Oh yeah, no, but that's that. So I'm excited once I get the first draft done here, printing the one. I can't wait to kind of put everything together and snap it in place, and just like a mag, snapping that mag in place. Just feels good.
You just snap it right in.
Yeah.
And what I liked about it was, like, in my case, right, I actually own Ryobi branding of stuff, and I actually was swapping over from DeWalt over to Ryobi, and I looked at it. I was like, there's a lot of crafters who actually have Ryobi branded battery packs. And if they've already got it, that is such an easy thing to do. You just print this free design. Actually, the one thing I liked about the Ryobian was the creator who remixed it, Meeker, created 3D printable takedown pins, because that's been a really big one in this hobby, is learning takedown pins. Like, this blaster has 2 takedown pins on either side here and a couple of screws, and literally the whole thing will just pull apart.
Yep.
And the protein was like that as well. However, it used metal takedown pins. When Meeker remixed it, he created 3D printable takedown pins, and which I actually was really big about, because I liked what what Lidl Dynamics does with the same thing of using printed pins throughout the whole blaster, and
C-clips and everything too, right?
Yeah, C-clips, like all this stuff was all 3D printed, and I love how much of it was 3D printed. So yeah, it was nice to sort of be able to use some of those parts and then mix them with the protein again. The one who created the protein is Flygonial. Flygonial actually created another blaster that was open sourced as well. What was that one called? It was a Griffin, and there have been just an absolute ridiculous number of remixes of that blaster as well. There's ones called like nailers, riveters. There's different type of rifle variants, pistol variants. There's like
everything across the board.
Everything across the board. Yeah. What I like about, and that's what we call them community blasters, is because the community keeps adding to these things. They keep exploring on it, or adding something new to it, or gaining a different dart type, or whatever. It could be all the way down to solenoid, or it could be have a circuit board in it, like an actual Arduino setup, and run a brushless and have
dart counter and everything else.
Dart counters. Yeah, they do all kinds of crazy stuff. It's just, there's no limit when it's such an open source setup like that. And I love how the community just is, we're protective of it, but we keep going further and further with expanding upon anything and everything.
No, I think that's awesome. I mean, Nerf is, so many of us grew up with Nerf alone. So now to be able to not only, you know, as adults, sure, we can go out and buy the Nerf guns, and there's some cool ones out there, but
Yeah.
to make your own, especially, you know, what's the fastest you've been able to crank out feet per second on a custom blaster or a modified Nerf for that matter?
381 FPS, feet per second. So if y'all want to
Stings
know,
a little bit, doesn't it?
it'll probably break skin. I have, so with anybody who doesn't know, typical stuff off the shelf, say a Nerf branded one that you would just typically get for your kids, it's anywhere between about 60 to 75. That's the rough average. There's a rival variant that hits closer to 90 to 95. There is then pro level blasters that you can buy off the shelf that are about 150 up to 200. The new one that just hit the shelf, which is called the Nexus Pro X, hits about 200. And the one that I have has been totally customized on the inside, and it's got the most ridiculous stuff I could put it in, and I got 381
new motors,
out of
everything
it.
else, and just geared
Yeah.
like crazy.
Well, it's usually these spring powered ones you can get a lot more. There's a lot more air volume because it's a plunger system and a piston system, if you really want to think about it that way.
Yep.
And it has a really large plunger tube. It has an extremely long barrel to go along with it. And then if you go with a lighter dart, obviously you can get a higher muzzle velocity. And that's how I got 381. And I was just, when I saw the number, I was like, that is insane.
Now, is it typical for them to use, because I see, of course, of the Morocco used it, and the Protein using it, is the short darts, or what's the actual term for the short
they
dart?
call them half lengths. So in the old day, there was the Nerf Elite darts were a pretty standardized length. They call those now full lengths because later on, people started finding out they had better accuracy when they cut their darts in half. And
Makes sense,
when they did that, they started calling them half darts. It really started from homemades. People were home making their own darts. They called them Steffens a long time ago, but those were very dangerous. People were putting like, I saw people put metal washers in them and BBs and stuff. And when you start getting really high velocities, you need to have, it needs to just be foam because it really does become dangerous. So all clubs banned them, like no homemade darts. You need to be able to buy them. So people would start cutting them down. And then now we actually have multiple companies that just make them. You could go to Walmart and buy them off the shelf now. Target, you could buy them off the shelf. Like we made literally the hobby made it a standard to the point that companies started realizing, oh, we should probably invest in on this. Yeah. So it was really kind of funny, but yeah, the most of the time we use the half length darts again, just because they're a little bit better. For some flywheel blasters, full lengths still are a preferred method, and it's just more of a preference because it's all, what do people like to run? What do you have more fun with? Because if you really want to go crazy, you can fire old discs from the Vortex line, or you could fire things like that. You could fire the rival balls. You can do the Mega darts or the Mega XL darts. You could fire rockets. There's so many different kinds. So there's no, at the end of the day, it's all about play, and it's just having fun. So people really just kind of do whatever is fun to them.
Oh, yeah, no, that's I've noticed a lot more places being set up for like Nerf wars. I think even locally, like I'm in Ohio, but we've got a few probably within half hour, 45 minutes that set up the dart wars and everything else, kind of like a paintball replacement. A little bit safer.
Well, the one thing about it that was nice was that because these are brightly colored, we have to have orange tips, like a lot of this type of stuff. Actually, one of the YouTube creators that used to be around, we did an interview with him. He's from Ohio as well, so he's probably right around the corner. He might be going to those events. And the nice thing about it was there's no age that you have to be. You can go to a local park and just play these games and enjoy yourself. With things like airsoft or paintball, they can be very dangerous. They are, you have to play them in arenas or in, dedicated private property and fields and all these types of things. It allows that ability for you. And when I was in San Diego, that's where I first started this. That local club, I think the youngest person kid that came out was like 8. So there's no limit. We can just have fun with it. And just have a range of it. And then as it got, the demographic got a little bit older, so they started going to certain different venues and certain places. Like if we do the indoor, it was higher FPS because it was more competitive. And when we went out to another place, that was outdoors, it was more a lower FPS cap, and there's a much higher like group of demographic, like age demographic that we would bring out, and that way it was mixing up the different play styles, and everybody could kind of enjoy it as they saw, and bring whatever they wanted, because you bring your pro blaster to the pro game, and then you bring your silly blaster to the fun outdoor thing,
And
because
that way it doesn't discourage other players.
Right. Yeah. And it everybody's going to be starting from somewhere. And that's the one nice thing, is you can start really low, really small, off the shelf stuff, all the way up to getting into these crazy 3D printed guys that are out there, and just random stuff that's available.
I've been waiting for the excuse to print one. So finally, for these events of us starting the new Nerf shooting gallery has been my excuse. And now with Murph, I'm glad to be able to print one. So I can't wait. And I appreciate your help along the way. So it's been great. But we're going to move to some community questions. So anybody in the chat world here in YouTube or Twitch, you'll see me looking back and forth at the windows. Anybody got a question for Vile? Nerf related, 3D printing related, him related, however you choose. Let's get some questions going here.
Random background. I've done a lot of stuff. Trust me. I've worked a lot of
checking
industries.
account information, pen code,
social security number, all that stuff. It'd be fantastic. I think you'll enjoy this one, by the way. They're very simple, and you were telling me a little bit about some of the stuff y'all plan to do. I think it'll work fantastic, the guy that you're building. So
oh yeah, I can't wait. Like I'll have a fleet of 3 of them, so
yeah.
We'll get some community input on colors and whatnot. But let's see here. First question from 23 Blue Dude: are your models that you do free or paid?
So when I do my models, a lot of times they're I have a couple that are on a GitHub that are for free. I've never done paid models. I always feel kind of weird doing them, at least my own personal ones. Like this cage I actually designed for a build. I haven't even uploaded it yet because I was trying to test it and get it sort of finalized. Because most people ask me, they're like, "Oh, do you have these?" A lot of times I just send it to them for free. When I have done some other things that I actually am also working on, because like I have older blasters that I'm doing like battery door extensions, and I'm still doing testing and stuff. It's just one of my problems is Zombie knows about this one. I am terrible about finishing my projects. So
I think we all
usually,
are.
yeah, I usually, before I get to a point that I'm ready to release something, I'm usually moving on to something else. I am looking at making a printables page eventually for some of the stuff that I've done, because my stuff's usually little bits and pieces. I normally am not doing like a full blaster, like say this guy right here. But yeah, it really depends on what it's for. If I was to do a full blaster, maybe I would go with a paid model. I don't know. I'm always on the fence about it, because a lot of times I kind of like the open source idea behind it.
Like you said, a lot of people love doing the remixes. So they love the model. They're going to share it in there, and as long as they're giving the credit right, get the
exactly.
Credit there,
yeah, they give credit, and the printables has become a little bit of a nicer place, I've noticed, to really put that. I've noticed everybody has kind of made the shift over to that website over, say, like Thingiverse or something like that, obviously.
But I think now, between that and Maker World, because all the you accumulate points, especially Maker World now, got all the bamboo store points. So
right, yeah. So I've seen people really making that shift. Again, when I see people putting up models, they're putting them mostly on printables, or unless they're on Etsy, obviously selling like their own files.
Yeah. Let's see. The next question we're going to get from Hybrid Robotics: what is a good beginner blaster to make?
Ooh, so that's going to be a little bit dependent on your skill set. I really liked, obviously, Lidl's stuff. They are paid models, but the one thing I liked about Lidl Dynamics was those are fully 3D printed. The only thing that you actually need to buy yourself is the mag and some elastic cable, and that's it. Those are some of the best things to really, and they're really fun, like plinkers. They don't hit too hard. They hit roughly in the 100 FPS
they had some
range.
They had some decent speed at Rocky Mountain.
Yeah, they're about 100. I think the max I got was like 108 out of the ones I tested before I sent them off to you guys. So they're good. They're not like, again, not like this hits like 220, like so that kind of gets a really good introduction to it. There are free models available. Actually, this is based off of a free model. This is a remix, well, sort of a remix. This is a licensed version that has a few changes on it. This is actually one you could get off of Thingiverse called the Cage Fighter, and this is a full auto blaster actually. So if you're into electronics and you're like comfortable with wiring and stuff like that, this is a full bullpup pistol, like full auto blaster that you just pull the trigger and it just dumps the mag. It's I think I clocked it out at 11 darts or something like that, or 12 darts a second. It's something ridiculous. So it really, that's why I mean it's sort of dependent on your skill set, what you're comfortable with. Something simple like a Lidl Dynamics blaster, again, paid models, but really fun kind of blasters, all the way up to ones that you have to buy hardware kits. Usually these will have a bill of materials written on them, so you can source your own. Same thing with this. It'll have the bill of materials. You should be able to source all the parts for it, obviously, or you can buy pre-made kits from some of the hobby shops like Out of Darts and things like that. So it really just, again, always kind of depends on your skill set. There are some things you can do that are modifications to older blasters, and Domochevsky has some paid models that are also really fun. They're basically remixes of little tiny micro blasters you can get from the store. They're called X-Shot Micros, and what he did was he took the internals out of it and used the like 5 or 6 screws, and then he made this entire 3D printable shell that you just drop all of that into it, and there's like little press pins that you do to combine it, and that creates a whole new blaster. As of right now, I think he has 7 different remixes, and those actually would be a really fun one. Some of them are just a really ridiculous one that he turned into a revolver that had like 7 of the plunger tubes from those little blasters all the way around it. And it's called like the conductor's revolver, and as you have to prime each and every one of them, and then you can fire it, and it'll just fire one after another.
Like a semi-auto.
It's like it's a semi-auto kind of revolver thing. So it just depends. There's a ton of models available. You could obviously go through printables or Thingiverse. You can find the free ones. If you don't have problems, I see that you're saying you don't have problems with wiring or electronics. There are a ton of them out there now. Again, Flygonial, the ones that we're talking about, that the Ryobian, that is actually just 2 motors and 1 switch. That's it. That is all that's inside of it. And a Ryobi battery. Those are available. And it's a lot of printed parts. There are some hardware bits. It's mostly M3 hardware. So yeah, there is a slew of them that are available for you out there. And you can go through Flygonial's build guide to kind of get an understanding, like take a look at it, see how that works. Because I like his build guides. His build guides are very well documented.
I've skimmed through the protein one, and yeah, it actually is. It's very well done.
Yeah, it's a very, very well done. That's going to be some of the biggest problems, is trying to track down the ones that have good documentation. Sometimes that's a little bit of a difficult part. Some of these individuals who are just kind of tinkerers, they'll sometimes just make a model and put it out there. I think that's where the biggest problem comes from. But then you'll have somebody like that who will take that time to really give you a beautifully designed 3D, taking all the 3D parts and models and putting it into a thing. Domochevsky's also very good about that with his documentation. So
awesome.
Yeah, I can go through a list of stuff when it comes to blasters you could start with.
Just so many.
Yeah, there's a lot out there now.
Last community question is from Pezliz. What is your favorite filament to use for blasters and colors?
Ooh, okay. So I have been using the Polymaker stuff, obviously, for recently. I really fell in love with the stuff that I was working with, because it was the Dark 2 gray that came out. And then
it's gray, yeah.
Yeah, and then the that teal color, the Polymaker like actual teal was a really pretty color. I'm a huge fan of, like, my color choices are these colors, like the sort of really deep purple and like galaxy black and stuff like that. These are really fun. And then like a neon green, that's sort of the colors that I tend to go for. Beforehand, like out of my old stuff, my old printers, I found, at least on my CraftBot, I had a CraftBot, and I ran Jesse PLA on that one, and for some reason that machine loved Jesse PLA. and I seem to have such an easy time with it. When I was running like the Robo, I had a bunch of other filament types because I've had Filamentum, I've had Protopasta, I've had Jesse PLA. I found, like, again, Jesse PLA seemed to be a good one, but when I used the Jesse PLA on the bamboo, it like putting it in there right away, I instantly was like, oh man, I'm gonna have to do so many adjustments to get this to work right. Polymaker was probably the easiest to use on the bamboo out of the box, so that one has been kind of nice to run on the bamboo as of right now.
And then do you typically use, you said mostly PLA, do you use ABS
Yes.
or PETG at all, or?
I have PETG. I've never actually used it. Surprisingly, the only two colors I've used, or types of filaments I've used, was PLA and nylon. I had a
both ends of the spectrum there.
Yeah, a bit weird. And I was printing nylon on the Robo R1 Plus. I had built a box out of cardboard around it, like a cover, and I had a food dehydrator that I had created an output on it, and it had a Lazy Susan inside of it. So it would sort of preheat as well as dry the nylon, and I would run it through a Bowden tube all the way to the drive, and then it would print, and I had this enclosure all the way around it. And I actually learned how to do that, and I was doing it for a contract, actually, of all things. It was this company that made they made product. It was basically for veterinarians, like performing surgeries and stuff like that on like cats and things, and they needed these parts. So I was printing them parts out of nylon, and that's how I did it.
Where there's a will, there's a way. You'll find one way to dry it and print it all at once. So
I figured it out. I still have some of the nylon left, but yeah.
There you go.
Never done it.
That is it for the community questions. We're going to run to some rapid fire questions, and I'll let you kind of plug anything and everything that you're working on here. Try to answer them with one sentence answer as you can. But first one first, plunger or flywheel?
Oh, why you got to do me like that? Flywheel.
Okay. Next one, favorite filament, color, brand, type.
Oh, we kind of
it doesn't have to be Polymaker, but it
doesn't have to. But it's tough only because the one that I really want is this neon type of green, and I can't even remember what the last one I had. I don't even remember the brand now. It might have just been the Jesse PLA, I'll be honest, but that might be the last
green
one.
Then okay.
If as long as it's a neon green, I almost don't care whose it is.
We'll see what neons might be coming in the future. Who knows?
Wink, wink. Now we're talking.
Next up, worst injury caused by a blaster, whether building or during play.
Now, does that have to be me or anyone?
Anyone that you've witnessed, at least been part of, or
okay.
seen.
I performed it on someone else. We were so this Pro blaster that first came off the shelf, it was called the Nexus Pro. We had put upgraded springs into it, and we were hitting around 220 FPS. We were doing a tag in, tag out game. If you get hit by somebody on the other team, you basically have to stop. Somebody on your team then has to shoot you to tag you back in. The problem with this is the person was standing all of about 10 feet away and was facing away from me, and I tried aiming for his leg, and it hit him in the kidney, which is a very soft spot.
Tender, yeah.
Yeah, it was a very tender spot, and I just was like, I'm so sorry, and I tried aiming down, and it just went whoop, it went right into his kidney.
Still friends to this day, though, right?
Yeah, he's still a friend, actually. Yeah, we traded each other stickers even after that, so I have his stickers on some of my stuff, and he has some of mine. So
there you go. Next up, best commercial non-modded Nerf blaster. So just a stock commercial blaster. What in your old, new, anything?
Okay, well, that would be probably the Nerf Pro, or no, sorry, not the Nerf, the Dart Zone or Adventure Force Nexus Pro X. They're about $50. They can hit 200 out of the box, and they are probably the nicest things to actually use. I got to use it at the Maryland Mayhem event that I went to last month, and again, for the price, you can't really beat the price and the performance, and just how they've refined their process. The blaster is so solid. I can't really speak highly
Yeah,
enough.
not
And you
gonna-
can go to Walmart and buy it for $50. Like that is such the easiest thing out there. And it also comes with what we call scar barrels. I actually have an
I've
orange
seen
one
those.
on this.
I've
Yeah,
researched
so
a
it's
little bit,
a centering device. It's basically a rifling device that will cause spin on the dart. It comes with 2 of those in that package. Best,
So
like,
they're getting serious with that one.
yeah, they took all of our suggestions, and they have been at all of our events, and they've been listening to us, like the people who are very active in the hobby,
Yep.
and they have really refined their stuff and now put it into a package at a really hard to beat price. Just period.
Yeah, awesome. I had to go pick one up now. And last but not least, this is a hard one, so prepare yourself. Is it truly Nerf or nothing?
At this point, it has become nothing. And I'll defend this argument. Nerf used to be, and back in the day, it was you either did homemades or you modified the Nerf blasters to sort of do what you wanted. When 3D printing took over, and then these other companies trying to keep up with what we were doing on the 3D printing side of stuff started to really, like, and a reason why, right? Started getting better. Nerf is starting
They
to
just
fall.
stayed
Now,
their course.
they sort of stayed their course. They're a couple years behind, and they're kind of dragging a little bit. And there's actually some new stuff coming up in the news. We're talking about it recently, and we have some predictions of how things are going to go. So we'll see what Nerf's next play is going to be.
Well, we'll have to stay tuned. So now
Yeah.
with that, this is the end of the segment. Go ahead and let people know where they can find you, what you're working on, and everything else, and also that news. If they want to catch any Nerf news, where they can find you there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am primarily streaming every Friday and Saturday, working on something between 12 p.m. and 8 p.m. I do long streams over on Twitch at twitch.tv/vile_mods. You can find me on places like YouTube and Instagram, same name, just without the underscore. Don't really post as much on YouTube, but I co-host a news channel known as Foam News Collective on YouTube that also has a accompanying podcast that goes with it. We discuss a lot of that stuff that's going on in the hobby. The news is a quick rundown. We actually do a lot of awesome stuff with showcasing designers, new prints, new products that are coming out and stuff like that. So if you are interested in the printed blasters, that actually has its own segment, and we have everything timestamped. You can just jump right to it.
Awesome.
Yeah. And what I'm working on right now is old school type of modding, which is known as integration work, where I'm cutting up old blasters, and it's like prop building. So it's a functional prop. I have multiple blasters cut up and recombined into these weird amalgamations of things. So
that's so awesome. Yeah. Especially seeing I've watched your streams and seen some of the old stuff come out that I used to have that. I used to play with that. So
yeah,
remade and everything else, and just brought back to life is awesome.
Yeah, I do the whole gambit of all different types of things. I assembled this on stream. I assembled this on stream. I modeled this on stream. So, but then I also do things like that, or just taking a blaster and just modifying it. It doesn't matter. I like to tinker on it. I mod things. That's my whole
and it's fun to watch. So I enjoy it. But thank you very much for coming on the show. Thank you for your help in the events.
I appreciate it.
For the guns and blasters. So I'm looking forward to us finishing this first one up, and I'm sure we'll be utilizing your knowledge in the future. So thanks again for being on the show, and you have yourself a good night.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
See you, Vile. Definitely an awesome guy to talk to. Blasters are so much fun. A lot of us have grown up with them. You can mod the heck out of them, shoot fast, shoot slow, just fun looking, fun to play with. So that was great talking with him. Like I said, he has been a lot of help on our Rocky Mountain rep wrap, along with now our Midwest rep wrap of planning for the blasters that we're using in our game. So thank you again to Vile Mods. For those that are here that did not put it in yet, make sure to type in I am awesome in chat. We're going to be doing a giveaway here just momentarily, which bear with me just a moment while I pull that up, because I may or may not have forgot to pull that up. Give me just a moment here. We're going to go here and there, and I need to put this in there. So I apologize to everybody. We are, go ahead and start putting in I am, if you have done I am awesome already and you are still here, I guess this is going to get the ones that left the show out. Go ahead and do I am awesome again. Even if you've done it again or done it once, twice, 3 times, do it now. I slacked. I did miss one thing on today's show, and that was to start the entry. So I am awesome. Get those in there now. I want to make sure the entries start counting up here. And once I see those enter, I'm going to give it a little bit here for everybody to enter. I apologize. I messed that one up. So YouTube, Twitch, I am awesome. And let's see here. Why is it? I want to make sure it's not counting here. Keep on, keep on. Give me just a moment here. We're going to enter. There we go. Yes, keep on typing. Again, if you've typed it in the last minute, type it again. I want to make sure everybody has a chance to get entered in there. That was my mistake, so I'm going to hold you tight for just a couple minutes. Give everybody in here a chance. YouTube and Twitch, put that in there. But as always, while everybody's typing in I am awesome, keep doing it. Thank you for coming to the show. If you like what you see, come here every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We meet a new maker every week, talk new news, show new prints, and just overall try to have fun. Also, we do have a lot of projects going on. We have Polymaker figurines. That is being run by Antoine Dimensions. He is doing a new Pokemon every 2 days. And he's releasing those on all the Instagrams on Polymaker figurines across Instagram, TikTok. When he releases the video each day or every 2 days, he releases that model for free to download on Maker World, multicolor and standard. He's doing the first 151 and he is not quite halfway through them yet. So still going. There's a lot of cool models, whether you have a favorite or not. Stay tuned for those. They're going to be coming out every 2 days. Also, we now have, we just started, it was last week. Creatrix Brit is actually leading the project for Polymaker Education. She is on all the socials, so make sure to follow Polymaker_education across the board. She is doing a lot of cool little projects for small kids, older kids, just to help them develop and learn, and just a lot of community involvement. She's modeled some stuff. I think there's around 5 or 6 episodes out now, so easy to catch up, so you're not having to watch hours of things. Watch those, like I said, on TikTok, Instagram, I think everywhere across the board. Make sure to follow those. We also have Pezliz, does her in printing color Polymaker show every Wednesday on twitch.tv/Pezliz. So make sure if you're not already watching her, following her, go there, give her some love, give her a follow, watch those shows. She's always fun to watch. Awesome to meet at the events. If you guys are at the Rep events, I know she's going to be at Midwest for sure. Make sure she's going to be walking around. Definitely say hi to her. She is lovely to talk to. But with that said, we got some entries in here. Anybody else? Real last second here. I am awesome in chat. Even if you've entered it, go ahead and double it up, triple it up. It's only going to do 1 entry for every person. But the entries are counting now, so apologize for that delay. So with that said, let's go ahead and I think there we go. I think make sure they're up there. There we go. Sorry, I had to look close to my small screen on here. But we are going to draw here in 10, 9, 8. I am awesome in chat. 7, 6, 5. I am awesome in chat. 4, 3, 2. I am awesome in chat. And 1. And here we go. Thank you guys for sticking around. Again, I apologize for that hiccup. Most of the show was actually pretty smooth, but oh, look at Valmont's in there. That would have been funny. Nervous Pajamas on Twitch. I hope you're still in here. If you are, please message Polymaker Sean in the Discord, or email to Sean something. I need to actually write this down. I apologize. This is lack of my learning here. Message myself or Polymaker Sean on Discord. I am Nicor. It's in the admin list. You'll easy to find it up at the top. If you want, just message who you are, what you won, when you won. Meet the Polymaker on 5/30/2024. We'll confirm that. We'll get you that code as soon as possible, and that does get you that free spool of filament. So with that said, let's see who is online right now. We have, is Westery? Let's see. Westery 1. Let me make sure she is live. Looks like she is. And we're going to raid out to her. And last time I don't think it worked right. So let me make sure. Let me know in chat if this is going to raid Westery 1. This channel has a follower or subscriber only chat, which I think is fine. We are following. Everybody, does everybody see that? It might cut me off because, okay, yes, raid now. So 51, yes. So make sure to show Westery 1 love. She is super awesome, nice also. So make sure to tell her that Meet the Polymaker says hello. Hope she has a great stream. Hope you guys have a great week and a good night. Hope to catch you next week. Thank you very much, and we'll see you soon.